to the 90th episode of Ask About Change. My name is Isabella Brusati and I am the founder of Isabella Brusati Consulting. We help our clients leading and managing the people side of change successfully. Every couple of weeks I answer questions that are posed by some of my clients, by people that write to me directly, or by people that follow us on social media. And specifically today we're going to talk about cross-border acquisitions. I have a question that was asked by Stephen in Manchester, and specifically is asking, we are acquiring a competitor abroad. What are the main points to consider when it comes to culture? Well, culture, I'm actually very pleased that the cultural differences are going to be addressed because unfortunately when buyers are targeting companies to acquire, they tend to look only at the legal and the financial due diligence, but they completely disregard culture. Culture is extremely important and is key in order to be able to basically get the synergies out of the deal. Because if we go to companies that are very, very different in terms of culture, sometimes can be a little bit tricky. It doesn't mean that the two companies, buyer and target, have to be the same, because otherwise what kind of synergies are we going to get out of this deal? So a little bit of diversity is fine, but when it's basically like we are up north and they are down south in terms of culture, it's going to be an absolute nightmare. So in terms of culture, what do you have to look at? Well, there are basically different elements. Some of them is something that you can observe very easily. Things like the values of the company. So for example, you go on the website and you check the mission, the language that is used to communicate with potential customers, to communicate with the employees. You can also look at the various handbook within the organization, and then you can start hanging around. So you can look basically at what they are called the artifacts. The artifacts are elements that you can easily see. So for example, is the building super majestic with marbles and you've got the lifts of the executives that are separate from the lift of all the rest of the workforce. This, for example, would suggest that it's a very bureaucratic company. Or maybe you have a company that has got super fun, and you can see they have video games and people are very casual in the way that they dress. Is very likely a very lean organization. So for example, if your company is very traditional and wants to acquire a company that is very casual, well, you have to be a little bit careful, because if you try to impose some rules on the target when you have acquired it, for example, in getting a very bureaucratic structure, is going to create a lot of friction and a lot of resistance. Also, what you have to do is to talk to people, because one thing is observe things that you can see, or how people interact, or read the values, but how many times companies actually walk the talk? I might say not that often. So they may say that we value diversity, and then actually via focus groups or via interviews with different groups in the company, you could see that, for example, there are no people from ethnic minorities in the senior positions. For example, the women are, the percentage is negligible. There is a massive pay gap between men and women, when women are significantly underpaid. Or for example, the company says we foster communication with the employees that actually may consist just in an email once a year. So you have to look at several elements, and I think that was really helping is Shane. He created a culture iceberg that shows the different elements that we can see, so things like, for example, the artifacts, and actually what's below the water. What I'm gonna put the link in the description box to a series of videos that I filmed specifically about culture, and I explain all the different elements in details and how to carry out a culture due diligence, which I think that is going to be very, very helpful in this case. We also have to add that the competitor is based in another country, so this is going to add an additional element of difficulty, because you also have to understand the way they are doing business. For example, if the company is based in the West, there are some differences, but they tend to be less than, for example, a company from France acquiring a company from, for example, Asia, because the way of doing business is significantly different. There can also be significant differences in terms of legislation and in terms of regulation. So you have to take into consideration also the environment in which your target is working and is operating, and how it's going to fit within your organization. There are a lot of things to say about the level of integration, etc., but for the time being I'm going to give you these pointers, and I strongly invite you to have a look at my series of videos. They are very, very quick, about 10 minutes each. They are very detailed and are definitely going to help you getting in the right direction when it comes to culture and when it comes to acquiring a target that is based not only in a different country, but is also in an acquisition in general. If you got any question that you would like to be answered in Ask About Change, please feel free to post a comment in the description box. You can also post your requests on LinkedIn, Facebook and Twitter, and I will be more than happy to answer your questions. Thank you so much for watching, and I see you on the next episode of Ask About Change.